Welcome to Own Your Essence, the podcast where healing meets empowerment. We're your host
Lee Walzak.
and April DeMille, two psychic mediums and a life coach specializing in grief, trauma, and toxic relationship recovery. This is a space for deep conversations, powerful transformations, and real, raw healing.
Each week, we'll explore topics ranging from the metaphysical to emotional grief, addiction, mental health, spiritual wellness, and self discovery. Through interviews and personal insights, we aim to spread awareness, foster connection, and support you. You're in the right place if you're ready to set boundaries, reclaim your confidence, and step into your true power. Let's own your essence together.
Podcast disclaimer. The content of this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be taken as medical, psychological, or legal advice. If you need medical or mental health support, please contact a qualified healthcare provider. This podcast also contains explicit language and discussions on sensitive topics, including but not limited to abuse, trauma, addiction, and mental health struggles. Listener discretion is advised, as some content may be triggering or not suitable for younger audiences. By continuing to listen, you acknowledge and accept these terms. And as always, thank you for tuning in.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Own Your Essence podcast, where we get to have deep transformational conversations with some of our favorite people. And today, I know that we will get to talk to a fabulous lady that I think we would consider one of our besties. We are your host,
Lee Walzak.
and April DeMille. And today we get to have a different kind of situation. We're going to do a round table as opposed to the typical guest interview. And again, this is one of our very favorite people in the world. We love interacting with this lady. So she will come on and we are going to do some Q&A about mediumship. Be prepared for a fun little hour, and Lee will introduce our guest and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I am so excited to have Laura West on our show today. She is amazing, as April has stated. And Laura West is a registered nurse, author, energy healer, psychic medium, former TV host of Life from the Other Side on the Everyday Woman TV network, and current host of a Guided Life podcast. Her purpose is to spread the word of love and intuition by sharing about our soul teams and how loved and guided we are. I love that.
Yeah. Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Hey. Our fun keeps going. I think we had to stop twice. So it's just we've been having fun, but we're finally here. So
we're recording, right?
Yeah, we are
Okay.
recording. So thank God for a little bit of editing magic later.
Seriously.
So, Laura, we were just telling our future audience that we were going to do a round table filled with mediumship questions and answers. So I know you've done something like that previously in your podcast. What does that look like?
No, I think that's such a great idea because from what I can recall, these questions may come up during readings like one-on-one or maybe in group sessions like how Lee does his Facebook Lives and things. But to have it out there as a reference for whoever wants to just get some answers to maybe what a reading is like or what's happening with us as we're doing readings and things like that, instead of having to either book a reading or put themselves out there, maybe they're not ready for that just yet. So I love the idea of like an FAQ on mediumship in a podcast format like this, where people can hear some of the frequently asked questions, get some answers without having to commit to anything just yet, and to help them to decide if they want to commit to something. Because as you guys are very well aware, I'm sure, we do get a lot of the same kinds of questions. And so why not put it in a place where they can easily access the answers and maybe hear some fun examples and have some laughs along the way. So here we are.
Yeah. And I love that because it's such good information when people are trying to discern who to work with. what kind of psychics, mediums, what their level of integrity looks like. And also, it gives them a good idea of how it shows up different in all of our reference systems. Like we all bring through that stuff in such different ways. And so it's neat. It's good information to
Yeah.
have.
Yeah. There's not one right way. I like to bring up that I like watching the television mediums do their thing. And I think because they exist in the television world, people think that's how mediumship is. The medium's just going to tell you who's there all the time. And that's not always the case. And I think it's good to have these conversations of sometimes the connection is strong. If you want to get straight to the point, you tell me who you want to connect to. Sometimes I'm just going to say, oh, there's a male energy here. Not sure what he's about. Let's investigate that. So it can happen both ways. There's no right or wrong. Like you said, there's so many different styles.
And I think I actually brought this up in one of our previous interviews. I've had an experience with celebrity psychics that left me rather disappointed, and I thought were actually more damaging. And so it just because it's on TV and it's out there blasted for the whole world to see doesn't
It's
mean
edited.
it doesn't mean that's the way the world goes round in the psychic world. It doesn't mean that's the end all be all. And there's a lot going on with that. So yeah.
I would be curious
Yeah,
too for everyone
actually, that's
listening.
a really good point, April. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh,
Go
I
ahead,
would
Lee.
be, yeah, I would be curious too, Laura. I might have said April at first, but Laura, I would be curious. How long have you been practicing mediumship now?
That's a good question. So I would say that I have been officially practicing or consciously practicing mediumship. I think I'm coming on 5 years now in 2020. So the pandemic, that whole time of just self-reflection and isolation just opened lots of things up for me, but definitely unconsciously or unintentionally connecting with the other side far longer than that.
Yeah, that's usually the way that works.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
for
It's a
sure.
good question.
so in the 5 years, though, I'm sure you have amassed a lot of frequently asked questions that are asked to you while you're doing sessions. So yeah, I
Yeah.
can't wait till we get into that piece.
Yeah. So do you have some questions that you want to hit on? And then maybe we can all talk about that. I have a few questions. I'm sure Lee has a few questions. So we can all just kind of go with that and see what comes up.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm sure that we'll just piggyback
Yeah.
stories and stuff from each other's. The first one that I want to bring up is it's not so much a direct question, but it's a lot of the times people asking about something for the future. So, will I find this? Will this happen? That sort of thing. And I find that when I'm in readings, I'm always giving the caveat as with the future can change, so nothing's set in stone. So I may explain to you what could happen if everything continues on the path that it is right now. And there's so many different factors. It's not just you as a person. There's other people that are going to be affected by decisions that you make and they make will affect you and et cetera, et cetera. So it's really hard to say it's going to be like this because the future is not set in stone. And we say future, we mean like this physical timeline. We can get into that whole thing too.
Yeah.
Really.
Like all the
But
timeline.
for purposes of simplicity's sake, seriously, yes, for simplicity's sake, when we're talking about like the future, is this going to happen? That going to happen? It could if A, B, and C happens. Or I think we talked about this before, Lee, where there are certain things that are destined to happen, but how they get there and when could just really vary and just depend on so many different factors because we all have free will. Somebody may choose to do a different route that affects your future in some way. So the future stuff, it's great to tap into and see what we get at this moment based on how everything's trajectorying at this moment, with that understanding that it could change and it's not always 100%. So it's those sorts of questions that do come up a lot in the more of the psychic readings.
So I have something I'd like to add to that, like a spin that I would like to add to that. Because I think that sometimes it also depends
Yeah.
on one of the factors it depends on is also the person, your reader. Because I'll give you an example. For me, nailing down future events happens to be my strength. happens to be somewhere that I
Ooh.
work with it pretty well. And I'm not saying that I'm not wrong. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I am able to look at the most probable outcome with a lot more accuracy, because the least favorite of the things that I do is the mediumship. So that's why I say it really, again, this is about the readers, because even though I'm a medium, right? And I can talk to your grandpa and your uncle and your dog too, it's not my favorite thing to do. I don't go, hey, this is what I want to dive into, but I will say, hey, you want to know when you're going to get that next job? You want to know if you're going to get the promotion? I can see those things with a lot. It's more my passion as opposed to the mediumship. So again, I think that having the right reader for the right, whether you want mediumship or psychic stuff. So, but as far as what you're talking about,
Oh, totally.
yeah, but as far as what you're talking about with future events having the ability to change, that's so true. Like, even if you're sitting with the best psychic and they can see your most probable path in that moment, that doesn't mean that you can't alter your will and completely change direction. You can. So even still, those are not ever end all be all answers ever.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I think that's, Lee, do you have anything to add to that?
I was just going to agree with what you said. I don't ever see it being an end all be all. And
Mm-mm.
like Laura explained and you explained, I think it's just tapping into the most likely future potential.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's actually going to play out exactly like that. So yeah, I completely agree with that.
Yeah. And that's also too, like, why I think feedback's so good, right? For whether we're learning or not, like, feedback's so necessary because you can come back and be like, hey, here's what happened. And then it helps us understand our reference system more too.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
I would be curious too, Laura. So that I feel like that's a great point to bring up. And I get asked similar questions. I feel like, I think you mentioned it too. It's more along the psychic realm of things. Is there anything more specifically mediumship as well that you typically get asked about, things about departed loved ones and all that? Because I know I have so many that I'm frequently asked, and I'm curious what it looks like in your world.
Yeah. So a lot of them can be as simple as, are my loved ones around me? So if somebody who's recently passed,
That's a big
are they
one.
okay? Are they around me? That's the biggest one. Are
Yeah.
they okay?
Yeah.
And yes, they're okay. They are. I always feel that so strongly when that gets asked, are they okay? So that's a big one. It's simple, but it's huge for our emotional and mental healing and grief process. And I think it's also important to know that, to be the voice for spirit on the other side too, to let their loved ones know that they are indeed okay. And okay meaning they're good, not, oh, they're good. They
No,
just want
they're
their
good.
loved ones who are still in the physical to know that.
Yeah. They're like way better
Yeah,
than we're doing.
they're good.
Yeah. They're like,
You're doing pretty well.
they're doing really good.
So
Um,
true.
I agree, though, that one does come up a lot. And I think there are different kind of layers to that I've noticed as well, where people will ask if they transitioned in a certain way, are they not okay? Or if they were like this in life and they were having this issue in life, are they not okay?
Yeah.
And for me, I always go back to those are all very physical things. And we leave the physical things when we transition.
Yeah.
So absolutely 1,000%, million% agree that they are all okay and that they're doing well.
And
Right. So
I want to say one of the layers that I think you could add
Yeah.
to that is
Yeah.
people ask, do they hear me when I talk to them? That's another one that I feel like comes up a lot.
I get
Mm.
that a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
I'm curious what your take is, Laura.
Yeah.
For that.
That, or are they around me too? Yeah. Sorry, what was that, Lee?
Oh, sorry. I said I'm curious what your take on both of those is. If they can hear you when you talk to them, if they're around you, all of that. Because I know again that comes up for me, and it seems like April as well.
Yeah, yeah, great question. Yes, they can hear you, they're there. And it's just a great reminder for us too, because even as mediums, we lose loved ones, and it's we get the same things as well. Oh gosh, I don't feel like they're around me, or are they here? So yes, they are definitely around, and they do hear us. And then as far as the question of why can't I feel them, or why are they visiting my sister in her dreams, but they haven't come to visit me in my dreams or something like that. So I do want to say that there, first of all, with spirit world, nothing's black and white. It's all gray. It could be anything. So there's no right or wrong. There is anyway, I won't go into that, but there's no like it's got to be this way, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And one thing that I have picked up on in my years of practice is that they could be trying to communicate with us, but either our grief is too strong, too thick, or we just aren't in that headspace, or we brush it off as coincidence, or we don't notice and pick up on the sign. So there's all different reasons, but I will say, like, spirit is very chatty. If when you start to realize what their signs are for you, you will start to see it a lot. And you might have a different sign for different entities in your spiritual team, and you may start to see them all at the same time. So they really are chatty. They really are there to communicate, and they really are doing their best to do so. It's just a matter of being open, being in the right heart space, mind space to receive it or to see it, and not brushing off on some of these signs. It's not always going to be so obvious, like a physical item gets moved. It could be that it's a sensation, like, oh, I just felt like I got a hug. And I was just thinking of my spouse who passed, and I just got all of a sudden this feeling of warmth. It could just be as simple as that energetic connection or hug that they're able to give. So again, it can vary, and unless you're talking to somebody specifically, it's easier. We have to generalize what these experiences can be, but they definitely are there. They're there if you think about them or want to talk to them. They're listening, and as far as then receiving, they do try to do so in different ways, and they will come and visit you, whether it's in your dreams or help you to feel and sense them. I guess when the timing is right, when they know that, your soul knows that, it will happen. It just may not look exactly like how somebody else might be getting visits from them.
Yeah, but and I'd like to add to the part you're talking about. Sometimes the grief is too thick and dense, and I completely agree with that part. And I think as well, it's important. I always try to point out to people too, we're allowed to grieve. We're allowed to feel the
Please do.
emotions,
Yes.
and it's healthy to do. So it's not that it's anyone's fault or anything like that, that they're having a harder time maybe communicating through the density or whatever. And again, it all comes back to that they're all fine and they're all good. And I do believe that once that dissipates maybe a little bit, and once we kind of process and navigate some of it, then we're in a more receptive state. But yeah, to always point out too that obviously it's no one's fault or anything. Like, we're allowed to feel all of the feelings. We have lost somebody physically that is important to us. And yeah, just as a caveat there, but I absolutely agree with everything that you said about how they're chatty and they want to talk to us and all the things, because I feel like they do. It's their intention to want to communicate.
Yeah.
Did you have anything you wanted to add, April?
I was going to say a lot of that heavy grief is really, it's an honor actually, because it's proof of the love. And so it's really, if you can look at grief in a way of it's actually just proof of the love you had for that person, as opposed to being painful. This is hurtful because I love this person this big. And so it helps you look at grief a little bit differently. But sometimes when you're sitting with someone and that grief is so heavy, it does make it really hard sometimes to even connect if that soul's just not ready, because some of that connection can be so raw that it can actually be too early or triggering, if that makes sense. And so sometimes the messages won't even come in yet. So I know that you guys have probably had experiences like that where you sit down and like, it's really hard to get messages for the sitter or whatever because the emotional connection is just so murky.
Yeah.
And then it makes it really hard for anything to come through yet. And it's just not time yet sometimes. And I feel like one of the things I was going to say though was Laura talked about, this is funny to me, spirits being so chatty. And it is so true. Sometimes they never shut the fuck up. And it brings me to a question I get often. And I happen to be pretty good with this one just because I have besties that call me the boundary queen. And I will have this thing. So like I mentioned before, I'm also a medium like you guys. And the veil is just so thin around my life. And so there's always spirits coming in and out and standing at my bed. Let me talk to you, all the things. And for me, one of the questions I've gotten is, how can you stop them? If you're always connected all the time, how do you stop them from talking to you or stop them from overwhelming you or whatever? Can you get them to shut up? Yes, you can. I promise. You can get them to shut up, or at least turn the volume way down. I'm going to say it that way. Like, maybe you can't completely shut them up, but you can at least turn the volume way down. Kind of the best way I can explain it is business banking hours, like 9 to 5. Or I've also heard it described and even explained it as house rules. I have rules in my house, and here are my rules. So whether you're a human or spirit, if I don't want to talk to you, I'm not going to fucking talk to you. I'll tell you when I'm ready. You'll know. So, like, I am one of those people that, like, I struggle to sleep as it is. So if I'm sleeping and I've got a spirit tapping on me, I am not going to wake up to talk to you. You could sit there and wait till I wake up and I'm ready. Like, I'm really firm with it, but that's a question I've been asked a lot. So I would love to hear you guys' response to that as well.
That's so funny because you'll say that I'll wake you up. Mine will just come in my dream.
Oh yeah.
Just
Oh, I
being
get that
there.
too.
Yeah.
I get that too. Yeah. They'll come to my dreams probably because I won't let them talk to me during the day.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if I'm about to do a reading for somebody.
Yeah.
And I think I told you, I know I told you this, Lee, because it just came out on your episode, but I'll let them start to talk to me or come through like the night before a reading.
Yeah.
And so my dreams are crazy. There's a lot of stuff coming through in the dreams as well. Yeah, I've set that up where I'm like, okay, I'm okay with that. But boundaries they're so important for
Yeah.
people who are very sensitive, who are open to that or receiving that. And I kind of want to talk about boundaries too when it comes to other things. I don't know, this is probably really left field, but we're talking about mediumship. And so I feel like it's appropriate. We're talking about spirit, but I've dabbled in crossing over work where there's activity going on in a house and it's not just residual energy. There's like something else going on. And it can be really scary because you don't know think about entering a haunted house. Like, you don't know what you're coming into, whether it's the energy that's been stuck or, again, something else.
Or an imprint or whatever it is.
Exactly.
And if you have no history or experience, you just really don't know what's happening.
Yeah. And what you may feel is, I need to get the hell out of here.
I need an exorcism. Like it
or an
just will
exorcism.
Yeah. It'll feel scary just because you don't know what it is.
Totally. And so boundaries, us being physical beings living on earth in this physical reality, we actually have more power than we realize. Like, we have more say. So if there's anything spirit related that doesn't jive with you, whether it's a spirit that's just keeps bugging you, not in a bad way, but maybe like for you, April, how it's like the Whoopi Goldberg from the movie Ghost, right? It's just, they're always there. So whatever the case may be, like, you have so much power as the human in this physical world to say, no, we're not going to do that. And it's amazing how just a simple thought can change that.
Think about the fact that even with our human friends, our human family, friends, workers, coworkers, whatever, if I don't want to answer the phone, I'm not going to. Just because you text me doesn't deserve a response every time. I will talk to you when I'm ready, and it's no different whether you're in the spirit world or the human world. That's how boundaries work.
Yeah. Yeah. And going along the lines of that is remembering that these souls, these spirits that have crossed over, they still have their personality traits, I would say, like the significant like markers that let you know that you can identify who they are as a loved one. And so I know that, Lee, we had talked about this, how some readings are really strong and some readings you kind of have to pull teeth. And so it's just remembering too that these spirits, just because they cross over to the other side, it doesn't mean all of a sudden they're like this whole different sort of personality. They're the same personality. And so that can carry over to, I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but it just felt right to talk about it. But as far as on the other side, they may not have been chatty in real life. And so if you're wondering, like, how come I never hear or talk to or never get anything from my loved one? How are they in real life? Were they quiet? Did they keep to themselves? Maybe they
Yeah.
weren't, maybe that's not their style. It could be anything like that. Just because they're on the other side doesn't mean all of a sudden all this spiritual activity is going to happen or they're just going to be coming to you and being chatty. So I guess something else to consider. It could happen because, like I said, nothing's black and white when it comes to spirit. But also, if it doesn't, maybe look at how were they in real life? Yeah, they really weren't very chatty to begin with.
That's
So
actually a really good point too, because I have a guide. One of my guides, probably one of my main guides, she pisses me off all the time. And it's because she will do shit like that. She will show up and tap on me and be in my room, walking around my bed, doing all the things. I've seen her face or her silhouette a couple times. And I'm like, what do you want? So she won't say much, but she'll be there. And I'm like, "Ugh." I'm like, if you're not going to say something, then get the fuck out. Like, you're bugging me. I'm just like, you're just bugging me. So like, I'm actually glad you brought that up because it really does make a difference what kind of traits they have or had, whatever.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Lee.
Yeah, I think a few things came up when you were talking, so to circle back for a second. It's interesting that you were talking about how much power that we have as humans. And because as far as like the haunted kind of stuff and all of that, I don't delve into that realm. I have many thoughts about why certain things happen. And I think you mentioned
That's a whole nother episode.
Yeah. We're not, I don't think any of us are into the fear-based stuff anyway. I think it's more
Mm-mm.
just like sometimes people get scared if they don't know what it is.
Oh,
Sure.
totally.
Yeah.
But what is interesting about that is that I had asked my own guides about that one time, and they gave me a very similar answer to what Lara was saying. It was this sentiment of you don't have to focus on it, but also always remember that you have the most power over your own energy out of anything that's in your energetic fields. And
Yeah.
I always found that very reassuring. And then to what you said too about how in life sometimes if they weren't chatty, you might not get that on the other side. And I do think that is like an indicator for who they were here. So we can, like you were saying, recognize, oh, that is my aunt or whoever it is. She was very quiet. What is funny though is that I think it can work the opposite way too, because I have a grandmother who has transitioned and she was the biggest chatterbox in life. And she would even, that was her nickname for herself. She would call herself like Motor Mouth. And she would talk your ear right off. And she was great, but it was totally something she would do. And I almost never hear from her on, when I for myself or when I sit down with other mediums. Like I remember one time I went to a medium and she came through very briefly and then but halfway through the medium picked up someone else for me and then she said, I don't know what even happened to your grandmother. She's out the window somewhere. And I'm like, it honestly doesn't surprise me in the way that she has given me the very brief message before of I said everything that I needed to in life. Now there's nothing that unsaid. Yes, I'm here. So sometimes I think it
Oh.
could work like that as well. Sometimes people say everything they need to, and they might not have a lot to bring forth as a soul, depending and obviously contingent on whatever circumstance that you're dealing with and whatever the dynamic is. For me, like I said, I know that they're around and I don't think there was anything left unsaid. That kind of popped up as you were saying that. So I think there can be all different
Honestly,
Yeah.
I've had an experience like that was a little opposite too, Lee, because I lost my dad when I was really young. I was like 14 and he was a wreck and inebriated and all the things, had a lot of addiction issues. And I find now that he tucks my ear off, whereas in my childhood, that was not the case at all. And now he's like always wanting to talk to me. So it can happen. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think it's interesting all the different layers that can go with that. So.
Yeah.
That's why it's not black and white.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's definitely like the onion on steroids because there's 8 million layers and all these
Yeah.
timelines and trajectories and factors and dimensions and all the things. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to add one more thing. You guys are both talking about your guides, talking about how we have the power with everything. And that brings up one more question that I get often. And it's about, are curses real? Can someone curse you or do cast negative energy on you or at you or whatever. And that one is one of my favorite questions.
It's a
Get the
good one.
fuck out of here with that shit. Like, really? Are we in fucking high school?
I want to
It's-
hear your answer, April. What do
it's
you
not-
tell them?
It's not a dumb question. I don't want anyone to think that it's a dumb question because sometimes people really don't know. And people
Concerned, yeah.
people really do get scared, and there's so much that can go into a person's conditioning and how they're raised. And if they're people pleasers and not good at setting boundaries, and they don't know that they can stand up for themselves to other people, let alone the spirit world. So,
And to add to that, there are crystals for protection. There's
yeah.
Plants, sage and stuff for protection. What are we protecting from?
Right.
So-
That's the thing is like the rituals are really just to make us feel better. You don't even need those things, right? Like you're already protected. There's no such thing as someone can put a curse on you unless you actually believe it. If you believe it and you're giving that power away, then by all means, you're doing yourself your own harm. But if you come to understand your true essence, your true creative source, no, nobody can curse you. Nobody can hurt you. Nobody can hex you or voodoo you. That's all bullshit.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much how I feel about that in a nutshell. And basically the support I've gotten around it from my spirit team too. But yeah.
Yeah.
What are y'all's thoughts on that one?
I'm going to have to give that some thought. I wasn't expecting curses, but since we're on the topic, I have I'm just going to say it, like a love-hate relationship with the whole idea of if you have like you can like manifesting bad things, or like you can't have negative thoughts, or you can't do this or
Right.
that, because I'm like, we're humans. Like
We're going to
sometimes I'm
have,
going to be in a bad mood and I'm just going to be angry, or I'm going to feel like the world's against me. And I'm not doing it because I want the world to be against me.
no,
But sometimes I just need to like let it out and
process
you
the
know?
emotion. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that I'm trying to put it out there. So I have a love-hate relationship with I just
Girl, me too. We're going to have a whole nother episode
Let's
about that probably, because I actually had
Yeah.
a client ask me that once. And he said, does that mean because I'm grieving and I'm in this place of depression or whatever that I'm creating more of that? No, that's not what that means. There's a difference between processing your emotion and sitting in it. There's a complete difference between allowing the river to flow and letting it stagnate. Two totally different things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. And even like the term like limiting beliefs, I get what it means, but those are that's one of the terms that I can't stand, because I feel like you can sorry, I know we're talking about curses, but maybe I'll get back to it. But because I feel like you can basically use the argument against anybody who has doubts or fears or concerns and tell them, "Oh, you have limiting beliefs." And I feel like it's a cop out. I get it. I get
Yeah.
why people use it, because it does sum things up nicely as far as maybe you're holding yourself back or something like that.
For sure.
But I feel like I've been in sessions before with someone and I left it feeling worse
Yeah.
because I felt like I was doing terrible. Like anyway. And so that whole thing, I'm just
Like it was dismissive because
yeah, it was
something
almost like
that.
oh, am I limiting myself? Anyway, so it's hard to explain, but so going back to curses and how you said if you let it. So it's that fine line of you might just be having a bad day and you're like, okay, what's next? What's going to get me next? I know things come in threes and it's just because you're human and you're freaking pissed and you're like, this is annoying.
And you're trying to find it just an explanation.
Yeah. Or you want to brace yourself for the next impact.
For the next disappointment or whatever. Yeah.
And we do that. And it doesn't mean that you're always doing it to yourself. And it's okay to acknowledge that. I find it's not like it's happening all the time, because then we also have happy times and good times. So with the curses thing, I think it depends. I think it connects to the whole, like, we have the power, we're protected. Like, we keep saying that. So, and it's true against all things, like the negative thoughts and the ill will that people might have towards us. But if you fester in that and you stew in that, then that's where it's okay. You might only be focusing on the negative things, and then you're going to start to think that.
Yeah.
But there's also nothing wrong with noticing a pattern and say, I've noticed that all these things went wrong today. That doesn't mean that you're setting yourself up to come.
Right.
So anyway, I
Right.
got a love-hate relationship
Yeah.
with that. Cause then
Well,
you're
said
all,
there's
"Shit, I
other
can't
factors
say
and
anything."
things that play into that. Because
Yeah.
that could honestly, that could even lead you to actually, you know what? I'm not going to get into that because that's a whole nother, never mind. Do you
Yeah.
have any insights and stuff that you want to share?
Sure. Yeah, I think
Do you love that term, limiting beliefs? And I just totally
I love that
called you.
term.
I pissed you
Um,
off.
You know what, Laura? You need to know. Uh,
You mean
It's
girl.
my limiting belief.
you're limiting my beliefs right now. Well,
Oh, wow.
Sorry.
no, I think
Same.
I think that even back to the manifesting point of if you're in anxiety or you're in depression or whatever it is, then you're manifesting more of that. I think it's just a nice way to bypass it, it's
Your
a form
human
of,
experience.
yeah, I think it's a form of
Yeah.
spiritual bypassing. And
Yeah.
I don't get where people are coming from if that's their frame of reference. I just think we need to be very conscious about where we're saying these things and who we're saying them to, because I think there are many different layers to different, and as humans we are multifaceted. We are going to feel a whole spectrum of different emotions. So I don't think that it means at all if I'm feeling anxious one day then I'm just going to manifest all this horrible stuff in my life or whatever
That's just
that
going to make you more anxious.
That's
right.
the thing. It's really damaging, I think, to sometimes tell people that because then they're afraid to feel their own
Yes.
human range of emotions. They're afraid, and then they end up just stuck worse
Yep.
because they're not processing that stuff and they're not moving it through them. And then it's counterproductive.
Right.
Totally.
And I do think sometimes there does become a choice to stay in some of those patterns that we have and all of that. And maybe that's an invitation to further explore. But I think I like coming it from a place of, instead of talking about you're anxious and you're going to manifest more anxiety or you're depressed, I like to, this just worked for me. Where is your nervous system at? Because our nervous system, I think, is overlooked sometimes in these situations too, where like anything that's going on mentally, like that connects to where our nervous system is at. So are you chronically stuck in fight or flight? Is that maybe what's good? And then if that's the case, let's get to the root of it, which is obviously going off in a bit of a different side note, but I think it does play into this as well, where instead of just telling people you're depressed, you're going to manifest more of this, let's actually start trying to maybe in a more holistic way helping people get to the root of why they're even feeling like this in the first place and acknowledging where their own body is at, where their own mind is at. So that's just my kind of approach to something like that. And I think limiting beliefs parallels all of that as well, where yes, I do believe we can have quote unquote limiting beliefs, but I think we need to be very conscious and aware of where we're saying this to people, who we're saying it to. And somebody might have a pattern of what you might deem as limited beliefs, but it could stem from a history of perpetual trauma. So again, I think there just needs to be an awareness and maybe a bit more of a sensitivity about where we're using this.
Yeah.
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 Said.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. And going back to curses real fast, I totally agree with everything April said. I think we create that and no one else has that power over us. We just create it for ourselves. So those are my 2 cents about that.
Uh, well,
So is there anything else, Laura, that you find that you are typically asked in readings, frequently asked? I know we touched on some other things, but is there anything else that comes to mind, like maybe one last thing that you can share?
I think it goes along the lines of where this conversation has had headed, but it has to do with, are you open to, if you're open to, are there negative spirits or something that can come through? And so I think it's important to share that the way that I work is I only work with loving entities, as I'm sure you guys do as well, of the light that have the sitter's best interest at heart. I think that for people who still have this this feeling of mediumship being a taboo or dark arts or something like that. Because I've been called a witch, not in a good way.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm called
Very,
all the things too.
yep.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that I'm like only going to open up to evil and all
Yeah.
this stuff,
All the things.
all the things. And I just, I want to share that I'm still the jury's still out for me about the whole negative spirit, dark spirits, that stuff. But I also feel like, okay, there's balance in everything. There's yin and yang.
There's
There's
polarities
light
in the
spirit.
human
Yeah.
experience
So
anyway.
yeah, but I don't work with that and I don't intend to. So I don't have experience with that.
Right.
So not to say it doesn't exist because there are demonologists out there. There are people who are doing work to understand these for, I think, the benefit of humanity, and then people who do it for not the benefit of humanity. But as far as are we opening ourselves up to evil spirits or dark spirits? No, because that's not our intention, right? Or not my intention.
Yeah, and I
So
want to say that
that does come up.
intention has so
Yes.
much present power. Like that is everything is your intention.
It's so true because people that I've talked to who've had near death experiences, it was just the intention that they had to want to be somewhere else. And then they were there as a soul on the other side. Intention is so strong. And we
It
still
really is.
carry that here.
Yeah.
We're in physical bodies. It looks a little bit different. But that intention of who I intend to connect to is huge. It's everything.
And I think there's something to be said about learning how to navigate with your human body because Lee had said, where does your body feel dysregulated or regulated? Are you leaving that session with a certain feeling of that isn't better? So if you're not leaving in peace and comfort and feeling supported and loved, then you probably didn't sit with the right person for you in that time. And there's something to be said about that.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, Lee and I have said it before. You shouldn't leave feeling worse.
No, you shouldn't. That's the thing. You never should leave feeling worse. Even if, so I've had people come to me and they're like, hey, what do you see about this situation here? And I go, here's what I see. But if that's not what they want me to see, or if that's what they, not what, where they want to be going, I'm still not going to tell them something that's going to make them feel worse. I'm going to say, here's the information you need to know about what I'm seeing. And here's what you can do if you don't want to, if this is not where you want to go, then you have the power to create something different at this point, right? And so those people should still feel supported and leave with a sense of peace, even if they feel like, oh, that's not exactly where I wanted to go with this, but it was good information to have. It's information, right? It's good information. It's a guide. And so they should still not be feeling ever like lost or worse or like scared or any of those things. And if they do, then we did something wrong in that session, right? Something, we're not a good fit. I'm not a good fit for you, whatever it is. Like something was not right.
I also like to share too that as a sitter, you're being bombarded with a lot of information from the psychic medium.
Yeah.
And you're connected to it as a sitter emotionally. So there's a lot coming at you and it could take time to process. I've left readings before too, where at first I'm like, okay, like that was fine. And then as I sat and processed it the next few days, that's when I'm like, oh my gosh, that was actually amazing.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's not going to be always immediate as well.
Right. But I do think that if you're sitting with something that's lower vibrational altogether, you will feel it in a different way completely.
Yeah. Whether you're psychic or not.
Yeah. You will
Whether
know.
you're a medium or not.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I want to say to Laura's point as well, I'm glad you brought up the idea of people asking, because I get this a lot too, about how do you that you're not letting in negative, lower vibrational. And again, that's not an area that I really focus in on. People can have whatever thoughts they feel they need to about that. I do find it interesting because I think whenever I have just as a side note, whenever I have a fear-based belief, I feel like for me, there's always room for exploration within that. Like I need to check that out maybe. So I do think it's interesting, but everyone can honor what everyone thinks there. However, I think that my response to that is always that, and I'm sure that both of you have probably had similar experiences, but that the messages that I receive from the other side are only of love. It's never anything different. It's never grandmother coming through saying, I'm so disappointed in you. It's the complete and total opposite of
yeah.
that. Unconditional love. And I've received apologies from people who couldn't bring themselves to apologize here in the physical. So it's peaceful and it's loving. And so that's always my response to that. And this thought came up for me earlier today, which is interesting. You were talking, Laura, about how mediumship is taboo for some people and how it's looked at as that taboo. And it's funny because I was thinking earlier today on a walk, actually, I was like, what's so interesting is that I find that mediumship doesn't even have to look like I'm sitting down with you and we're doing this exchange and you're the middleman. I think mediumship can be as simple as somebody saying to, just hypothetically, their departed mother on the other side, I miss you and I love you. You in that moment are the connection between the physical here and the other side. You are establishing a communication with someone who is no longer here. Whether you feel you can hear them back or not is not really the point here. It's that you are that middle point and you are establishing this connection. And that to me is mediumship.
Mic
So,
drop, Lee. Mic drop.
so I find it, I'll just say
Well,
interesting.
I feel like that's very similar to people that are praying. If you're saying, I'm praying to my angels or my guides or my creator, whatever, that is, you are the connection.
How is it any different?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We can
Yeah,
go into all that too.
I'm glad you brought that up, though, because I like touching on that point. And I think it's helpful. Maybe if someone's not going to receive that information, they're not going to receive it. But I know that there are people who are on the fence where I'm genuinely curious. I don't know. How do I know that
Sure.
you're connecting with light and love? And so I think that's always a topic that's good to bring to the forefront. But yeah, I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
definitely.
And I
And
think oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and as a sitter, you can also sense as well if the medium's connecting to love and light or not, because you can sense one, how we've been saying, do you feel better or do you feel worse?
Yeah.
How does it feel intuitively too? Are the messages that are being shared ba- based on love
Right.
versus fear or other sort of negative emotions? Is it more love based, even if it is someone saying they just want you to know that they know what you're going through and they are there, and just as they were in life, they're still concerned for you. It doesn't mean that they're having worry or negativity, but it's out of love. So it's just, is it love based versus negative emotionally based?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I want to say something going back to intention too, because intention really is so important. And none of us ever sit down with any intention other than to connect in the highest and best good for ourselves and the people that we're sitting with, right? Ever. So that automatically closes the door to anything lower vibrational anyway, automatically, like it shuts it out. And so the best way I can explain that is like, also, if you're doing your research and you're like, hey, I want to sit with a psychic or a medium or both, and you're checking out their reviews or their communities, what kind of people are they talking to? What kind of people are they surrounding themselves with? Because if you go out in the world, if I go out in the world and I'm like, hey, I'm always around the best people and the highest vibing group and all the things, but all my best friends are thieves, then you got a problem. That's not right. So like, we're not sitting here going, oh, we want to connect in the highest and best for everybody, but hey, on the side, I'm talking to this dark cloud over here because I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, intention really does set the tone for everything. And like I said, when we say we're doing this, it's because we are doing that. That's where our focus is. And that's where our frequency is. And that closes the door to anything else.
Absolutely. And I will say too, in my experience, I've never even dealt with any messages, like I said, coming through that have ever felt negative. I've never felt like an energy step in that I was like, oh, this feels lower vibrating.
Mm.
So that's completely even outside the realm of my entire experience as a medium. And absolutely agree though, April, like it's all about when you sit down, if you have the intention that this is for healing and for the highest good of the person that you're sitting with, then there's absolutely never anything to be concerned.
Great.
So,
There it is.
yeah.
I think it's close to time, actually. Do you guys have anything else you want to touch base on before we wrap it up?
I don't think so. I feel complete.
I feel good.
You feel good?
Feel good.
Okay. Laura, thank you for this. Is actually this round table. We've been trying to do this for, I don't know, a few months. We were actually,
Easily.
yeah, we were a few months ago, we were going to do it actually on your podcast, and then things shifted and changed. So we were like, let's just do it on ours instead. So here we are. But thank you so much. It's a pleasure. I was telling everybody, I was like, this is one of our besties. So
Yeah. We're three amigos.
yeah, for sure. It's always a pleasure. I love always having you here and having you as a friend and a part of my life and my community. I think that there's a lot of glitter and gold in you.
Oh, thank you. I
Yeah.
feel the same way about you too. So
And I second what April said. Always wonderful sitting down with you, whether it's here or on your podcast, which is amazing. I'm the honorary co-host of that now.
April, you're second runner up. Just so
I was
you know.
going to say,
You've been 3 times.
I was going to say, I need to come revisit too. Yeah. Then we also need to thank our future listeners. We are manifesting lovely communities, whether we stream this on YouTube and all the podcast places that we're going to go. But just a quick reminder to our audience that you can email us with any questions, suggestions, topic ideas. If you want to be a guest, if you have someone that you think would be a great guest, let us know. You can email us at ownyouressencepodcast@gmail.com, and we will have Laura's links and stuff listed in all the appropriate places. Also, Laura, do you want to tell them where they can find you the easiest?
Yeah, I would say that I'm probably most active on Instagram at A Guide to Life Podcast, Laura West. That would probably be the best way.
And if you need to reach out to Lee for a private session or me for a private session, I think you could probably also just email us at our Gmail and get a hold of us that way. And Laura, you can reach her on Instagram. So I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye right here. Bye, you guys.
Thank you for joining us on Own Your Essence. We're so grateful to our guests for sharing their wisdom and to you, our listeners, for being part of this journey towards healing and empowerment. If today's conversation resonated with you, we'd love for you to subscribe, leave a review, and share this space with others who might need it. If you have any questions, topic ideas, want to be a guest, or would like to work with myself or April privately, send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. And we'll see you next episode.